So please introduce yourself for us.
Hey, my name is Kimberly, and my handle on Instagram is Stiletto Renos.
Amazing.
And YouTube as well. And I'm a general contractor / real estate investor.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it, and we're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So we'll just get started and just want to find out about you and tell us about yourself and what you do and how you got into this, and we'll just kind of freestyle our way through a conversation.
Amazing.
Great.
Where do you want to start?
So tell us what happened when you were growing up. What got you into this line of work?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I always like to tell people that I was raised as a boy.
Okay.
Even though I'm not transgendered.
No.
I don't think anyone would ever confuse me for somebody who's transgender. I think I'm very female.
Yes, definitely. Of course, we see that.
Yeah, so like I have been doing this for as long as I can remember.
Yep.
I started with my first project when my parents bought their very first revenue property.
Cool.
So I was like 12 or 13, and I was like begging my parents to go and do renovations with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad was like a little bit hesitant to begin with, just because it was like, well, that's a blue job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a girl, so you're supposed to do the pink jobs.
Right.
But then it was just like, hey, you're free labor, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So yeah.
So they got you in there.
Yeah, so I have the most amazing memories as a kid growing up renovating. We did a full-scale renovation to this big, beautiful 100-year-old property. It was like 3 stories. Gorgeous property.
Cool.
So I have like the best memories with my dad.
Was that here in Canada?
Yeah, so that was in Saskatoon.
Oh, in Saskatoon.
Yeah, so they owned a few revenue properties. They didn't do it to the extent that I bought my rental properties, because they were too nice. Like they were,
right.
You needed to be really like a little bit more hard nosed, and they, they fell for every sob story. And so they were too nice. They were too nice, and they're wonderful people, and they're they're my biggest supporters. But yeah, so I learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
So I've been working construction for as long as I can remember, and then I moved out to Toronto to go. Actually, no. So I bought my first revenue property when I was 21. And of course I had like no budget.
Yeah.
So I did a full-scale renovation to the basement suite. So it already was suited.
Okay.
And I was just like, I'm not going to pay a plumber to do this, and I'm not going to, pay an electrician. So
what's suited? Can you explain that, what that means in your world?
Okay, so in my world, so the main floor was like a 2-bedroom home.
Okay.
And then the basement had a secondary suite.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that property was already suited. I didn't need to like pull any permits or anything. And I wasn't like replacing, or I wasn't adding any fixtures. So there was no permits that had to be pulled or anything. So it was pretty straightforward.
Cool.
So I did that reno all myself and made lots of mistakes and learned from them, but I was so lucky that I was young enough at the time, and I had the energy to and patience.
Yeah.
Now it's like patience is maybe not
thin.
yeah, exactly.
Patience is non-existent. Yeah. I found that too. Like growing up, I kind of got in this kind of a similar situation, but a lot younger. My dad kind of forced me into it. I didn't want to have anything to do with
really?
it.
Oh my gosh.
Really? This is like when I was less than 10 years old, right?
Oh,
but then I started growing up. Went all kinds of avenues, and then finally I landed into renovating. And it was because of, I liked the struggle I went through. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but it really taught me a lot about people and how men perceive you and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
That topic alone is just,
it's huge.
It's so huge. And I think that when I started realizing how hard it was to get into construction and renovations, that's what made me want to get into it. Because I was like, oh, people are saying I can't do this. Well, I'm going to fucking show them I can. Like, this is, you
love it.
Yeah, so I did, and I just started a company. I started a company when I was 16 years old. I wasn't even out of high school yet.
God, that's amazing.
And I just went for it, and people were like, "Oh, like we're not gonna hire you. You're like you're 12." You know, everyone says, "Oh my God, she's 12." Like, such a typical age to say, but and I'm like, "No, I'm not 12. Like I can paint your house and blah blah blah." And it just kind of I went from there, and I had a lot of struggles too. And we've interviewed so many other people as well, and one woman was telling us how she had this like crazy situation with men on job sites. So there's like. With you, are you on site? Do you do the work now, or do you hire people and outsource that?
So because all of my projects are always very time sensitive, for the most part, I'm not on the tools. So like right now, I'm running a job site in Saskatoon while I'm in Toronto. So crazy. I'm on the phone a lot. I'm sourcing products. I'm scheduling everyone. But for the most part, I'm not on the tools. However, I was just back in Saskatoon and I, built a deck, built a fence, actually 2 fences. And but that was more of, it was a labor of love.
Right.
And it was me and my dad doing it. So
does he still work with you?
Yeah.
No way. So that's so cool.
Yeah, like he's, he's like, I guess he's in his 70s now. And doesn't of course take the lead role as he used to, but so he's an engineer, so I need him.
Right. That's convenient.
Exactly. So, and that I learned code from him. I learned all of that. So he's been an amazing resource.
Yeah.
So he's like me. He loves projects. He loves working with his hands. For as long as I can remember, I've always been building something. Mm-hmm. And so as much as I say, well, yeah, I'm more of a general contractor now and I'm, not working the tools, but it's if there's any opportunity for me to
you take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because all of my projects, they're all so time sensitive.
Yeah.
So if I can get a renovation finished by the end of the month and have it rented out the following week, that's worthwhile. That's
right. It's a success.
Yeah, that's if I don't have it finished by X date, that's lost revenue for me.
Right.
So I'm in, out, 18 hours a day, go.
Wow. So. Do you so you know what it's like to sort of be in that world where you're working and having males around you and stuff, and going back to what I was saying, I just kind of wanted to see where you were at in terms of understanding and things like that, right? But so she was telling us Chris Ford from I can't remember now. Anyways, she's a tiler.
Colorado.
Colorado? I can't remember. Super cool. Super cool. We'll re-edit that and shout her out. But she said that one day she went in with her partner to tile a bathroom, and the guys that were doing the drywall put a dead squirrel or dead skunk or something in her work bag. And people would bark at them, and I had that too.
Horrible.
I used to get barked at and called a bitch and when is the real crew gonna show up, stuff like that. And did you ever face any of that type of of challenge? Yeah. Any stories in particular that you have?
So I worked for Brian Baumler.
Really?
Yeah. And I was not very well liked.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And
by him?
So
I heard he's a real dick.
So
you're
I will not confirm or deny.
No comment.
But it was tough working on his job site.
Interesting. Yeah. That is really interesting, because you look at these public figures and you think, okay, they must be so accommodating and accepting and understanding, and they are the worst ones out of everybody. And not just to kind of reel out the drama from that, but was there any particular story that you might have that would kind of tell some of our viewers what you experienced?
So I ended up getting fired.
Okay.
And from that job, and I called him out on it. I said, it's because I'm female.
What were you doing there?
So I was just a general laborer. So like we were doing demo and like we were actually working on the show. And so like whenever it would show the homeowner like tiling a bathroom, they would put up one tile. And then we would come in and do it. Right. Do the rest and kind of like fake it like the homeowner was actually doing the work when it was actually us. So we were doing everything, right? Like, yeah. But yeah, so it wasn't him that actually had fired me. It was one of his like site supervisors. And I just said like, listen, I'm getting so much resistance and I hate to say it, but I think it's because I'm female. Yeah. And I can't remember what his response was, but yeah.
Oh, well.
And you know what? It was an amazing experience, and I don't want to put any negativity on that experience because honestly, I did learn a lot.
Yeah.
And there were some really amazing people that I had worked with, but it was like, you know, one bad apple ruins it for the rest. And the other fact that I think that why I wasn't well liked on that, I'm going to say on set, is because I got the camera time, right? Right. Because I was like the only female, so they, the producer of the show really wanted to showcase that, hey, and I mean, this was like over 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it was like big.
It was, it was important for the time. And it was also like right kind of in the beat, like this was season 3 of Disaster DIY.
Oh my God, I remember that show.
Yeah.
Holy. Yeah. Is that still on?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah.
So after that experience, I was like, I'm not watching that channel anymore. Just because it was like, it was really negative.
Yeah, like you go through these things, right? And they kind of put a bad taste in your mouth, and then you also sometimes don't know how to handle those situations because it's like you want to stick up for yourself, but you also don't want to ruin a chance or like, you know,
and
you
I
don't.
Was a kid. I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all were. Well, I wasn't really 10 years ago, but yeah, like I have. Well, I mean, I have bags of stories, but like mostly the reason I went into renos is obviously I loved the challenge and that resistance where people wouldn't hire me because of what I looked like. Yeah. And I mean, I got a lot of flack when I was younger too, trying to get into it, and people would ask me like, what, why would you want to be in this field? It's such a man's industry. Yeah. And you know, I'm sure like males experience this kind of situation too, like when they're a nurse or if they're in some kind of more female-dominated industry, right? Like like women can only be nurses or. You know, men can only be doctors, and I mean, there's people have broken these barriers down, and people are just expanding. And for me, it was like I want to show that I can create something that people will hire me for. And I started doing tiles and drywalling and mudding and stuff, and I was just naturally good at it because of my dad and my mom. And my mom's still in the industry; she still does. Flooring, and she runs all of my material for us. She buys, like, gets us all the tile and makes sure we have everything on site and stuff. And you know, she's still very much into it. She's like the original fix-it female. Like she's been doing this for 40 years, right? And I mean, she has stories too. But when I first got into it, that was my goal. My goal was just to be like, you know what? I need to create something that's going to be different. And when I thought of fix-it females, it just kind of popped up because I had a regular kind of generic contracting name before. Right. And I ran like a crew of 20 males in this company. And I got overwhelmed and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't handle it. It was nuts. It's too busy, too many jobs, too much going on. And I just kind of like shut down and I was like, fuck this. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Everybody was right. And then I just kind of shut down for a bit, couple years, and then I started getting back into it. My partner and I were getting back into it a little bit. We'd do this, do that, like mud this wall, drywall this patch, and we were getting so fast. We were like making tons of money. We would go into like 4 or 5 different patch jobs a day. We were working for I won't say their name, but a massive company that produces condos and rents condos. And we were going in there. They'd call us up, hey, Stace, can you go down? We have a patch job at Danforth and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, get up. We're going to like patch these jobs. And they're like, okay. So we would go to that condo. Then they're like, oh, you're done already? Oh, go to this condo. And we were banking back then.
Wow.
And this is like 6-7 years ago now, but then I was like, I don't want to work like this. This is crazy. Like I can't keep up to this.
You need a crew.
Yeah. So then I hired my first helper under. We didn't do Fix It Females yet, but I hired my first helper, and then we started doing stuff like bathrooms and kitchens together, and we were, bringing in tradesmen, and we were getting them to do everything, and I just kind of, I was very self-taught. I learned a lot of stuff on my own.
Right.
Through trial and error, and when we had Fix It Female, it was just kind of like, I shot out of bed one morning, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is fucking big. Like, babe, get up, babe. She was like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I was like, Fix It Females. She's like, what? I'm like, the name for a company. Because we wanted to create a platform where women knew that we would hire them. I was looking around at all these women that had so much talent, and nobody was getting hired.
Totally.
I would even cold call contractors and be like, hey, are you looking for a helper? As soon as they heard my voice, they're like, no. But I knew they had an ad up on Kijiji, or they had an ad up on whatever Craigslist was popular back then. And it's like, as soon as they heard my voice, they'd be like, no. So I started emailing them.
Right.
And I would sneaky deaky go on the email and be like, hey, my name's Stace or whatever. And then sometimes I didn't even give them my name. And they're like, hey, show up for work tomorrow morning with hard hat and boots. And I was like, cool. I'd go there with all my tools, my work truck, get in there, walk in, and they'd be like, who the hell is this girl? But I was out working all of the men in there because I had so much kind of background. And I would go in and I would finish drywall. I'd drywall a whole room, first coat of mud in a day. And they're like, I'd be like, just give me one other person. And that was only because one guy gave me a chance. Serge, who I loved. But one guy gave me a chance out of all of them. And he's like, holy shit, you're one of the best workers I've ever seen. Amazing. And everybody else that I had would usually send me home. He'd be like, sorry, like, we don't have any work for you today. I'm like, you just told me to come here.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It used to drive me crazy.
Yeah. So like in the real estate world, it's the same thing. Like I went to this event with my commercial realtor, and it was put on by his corporation. There was like, it was an educational thing. And so there was like, it was a huge space. There was probably 5,000 people. I looked around. I was the only woman there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was just like, holy, and everyone was all dressed in black, and here I am like in this like bright red coat.
Well, way to make a statement.
And I thought, and so it was at that point that I realized that not only in the construction world was I an oddity, but also in real estate, I was also an oddity.
Wow.
And so for the most part, like I've run my own job sites, so I don't have that type of experience that you've had. However, now that I have like my own crew, I've realized that like I'm a way better GC than any man.
Yeah.
Just because it's like I'm hiring men, and men are programmed to please women.
Right.
It's like ingrained in them to make women happy. So
it's true.
So it's like, and I don't ever tell them to do anything. I ask. So it's, my approach is a very feminine approach. So it's not very often that, somebody would say, oh, like, Kimberly, she's a bitch, or she's whatever. Because it's like, I have a very feminine way of working with them. Right. And my crew, like, they would die for me. Like, they would do anything for me. Wow. And I, the same for them. Yeah. And that's because I'm not trying to be a man. Yeah. Like, in a masculine role. Yeah. I'm definitely a woman in a masculine role. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear that. So does your crew follow you around? Because you go do you do province to province, or do you just kind of do Saskatoon and Ontario?
It's funny because my crew does sometimes like
hop over.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, for the most part, there's, my Saskatoon crew, and then, so I'm building a network here in Toronto. So, so yeah, it's like, I have people all over, but I mean, like social media, that's like really connected us.
Oh, definitely.
So I know, like, if I need a guy out in Hamilton that I can like I call my guy in Calgary or Saskatoon and be like, hey, do we know anybody in Hamilton?
Yeah.
And so now it's like I'm developing my own crew out here in Ontario. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So has it been a really lucrative path for you?
So real estate has been,
right.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, like I am a real estate investor, and I'm always in the long-term hold. I'm not really in.
I love that title. I'm a real estate investor.
Yeah.
What a title that is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I actually, I have a really good story. Yes. So
let's hear it.
The very first property that I bought,
okay.
I was 21. As I told you, it was the suited property. So it was a corner lot, and I love corners.
Okay.
Because you can't do anything if you're in the middle of a block. You always need that corner piece.
Okay.
So I knew when I was 21 that this block was going to turn commercial in 15, 20 years. I knew that. So I was like, okay. So I purchased this property, and did my little reno. Actually, one of my tenants, my very first tenants, they were the sheepdogs. So,
like the band?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which is so funny.
Crazy.
I mean, we're both from Saskatoon, and it's like, yeah, it's that small that we know each other.
Jesus.
So I knew that in 15 years I was going to be selling this to a developer who's going to tear it down and whatnot. So. This was like a couple of years ago. I get a phone call. Hey, I'm representing so-and-so. We'd like to buy your property.
Oh my God.
And so me being fully prepared for the last, 15
you
years.
You knew, yeah.
I knew.
You're like, oh, why?
And I said, yeah, okay, this is, I'm absolutely willing to sell. I'd love to sell it to you. This is what I want. Oh, no. That's way too much money. Market price is this. And I said, no, I know that you need this. I know I'm the corner piece. You can't do it without me. And they had purchased all the other property on the rest of the block.
Shit.
So I was the last piece. They needed me.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah, and I was wanting to do this without my realtor, just because I thought, like, I know this. I've run this deal through my head 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't need a realtor, or I don't need representation for this. Until he called me, the seller's agent, the buyer's agent, said, Kimberly, you are such a smart girl for investing in real estate when you did. And I said, what? I'm a smart girl? And I said, fuck you. And I lost it on, I was on conference call with a bunch of other people, and I was just like, you know what? You call me when you get your shit together. And I hung up on him. I was like, my blood
was boiling.
Fucking boiling.
Oh my God.
And so I called up my realtor, and I'm like, I can't deal with this guy. Like, he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
And so, so whatever. So this was 2 years later. We finally got the deal done. And
did you budge?
No.
Good for you.
No. And in fact, I said, the next time that you ask me, my number is going to go up.
Oh, good for you.
So
that's hilarious.
So I got the number that I wanted.
Good.
And so it was really funny because it was yesterday. A friend of mine, a real estate investor, back in Saskatoon, he texted me. He said, "Hey, you know what? I have something really funny to tell you." I talked to that buyer's agent. He didn't know that I knew you, but he told me a bunch of stuff about you, and I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, oh my God, what did he say? And he said, they said that you were really stubborn but really hot. And I was like,
off.
Are you fucking kidding me? If I was a man, they would have been like, hey, you know what? He's a really astute business person.
Yes, of course.
But of course,
I'm
stubborn and hot.
Yeah, stubborn but hot. No, but hot.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I know.
You know what? It's like, I was in a basement yesterday. This shit still happens to me to this day. I was in a basement yesterday, and we're doing a 2-story renovation down the street from the office. And my underpinning crew is there, but there's these 3 guys that are there that work under the guy I usually hire that I don't know. So I'm down there with the plumber because on the drawings it said 5'2" from the studded wall. Well, the wall wasn't studded yet, so he did 5'2" from the back of the underpinning.
One phone call. One phone call.
So I'm like, fuck, now I gotta redo this. He's really awesome though, this guy I use for the drains. So I'm like, look, you gotta move the plumbing over by like 6 inches at least. I'm like, why don't we do another 10 inches so that blah, blah, blah. So I'm talking and we're showing each other and we're going through it. And he's like, don't worry, Anastasia, I'll do it for you. Like, no charge. And I'm like, yeah, duh. You fucking made the mistake, not me. So I'm like, okay, move this over, blah, blah, blah. And the 2 guys behind me, the three guys, I know the one, but I didn't know the 2. They're laughing. And they're like heckling me behind me. And I'm not one for confrontation. I really hate confrontation. Like, I hate it. I hide when I hear people, like, yelling. Like, I don't like it. I'm such a people pleaser in that sense. So I'm like, you know, whatever. And I'm talking and I'm like, you know, telling me, I know my shit. So I know I'm talking about a drain and I'm saying specifics and I'm saying blah, blah, blah. And the guy's not arguing with me, but he's kind of counteracting with me saying, like, you know, we should keep them separately. I'm like, no, I want the laundry room in the mechanical room and the bathroom to share the same wall to maximize space. Yeah. Common sense. Yeah. And they're laughing. They're laughing like this bitch doesn't know what she's talking about. And I turned around and I was like, who the fuck do you think you 2 are? I said, I'm the bitch running this fucking site. I said, I was swearing like this and everything. I said, I swear to God. I said, you're disrespecting me. I said, don't you fucking dare disrespect me on my own site. And if you're going to do that, get the fuck out of my job. Get out. Yeah. Get the fuck out of my job right now. I said, as a matter of fact, get the fuck out of here. And they looked at me. Ghost face. They just went so pale. They were like, because they're speaking, like a Slavic language, and I'm Macedonian Greek. So I could pick up some of the words that they were saying.
For sure.
Like bishka, which means pig. It's so disrespectful.
Oh my God.
And I lost it on them. Like, I'm being generous about how I'm talking right now. And I didn't happen to have Hugo yesterday. I was like, damn, you missed an episode for sure.
Wow.
So they left. They walked up the little ladder we have going down into the basement, and they left.
Good.
And I was livid. And I had one of my employees, Imogen, who's been working with us for a while. And she's like, you good? And I was like, yeah. Yes, I am. And I felt so proud of myself in that moment. Because normally I just don't bother, right? Because it happens all the time. But it's like, I don't know if they didn't know who I was, or like they thought some man ran the company or something. Because a lot of people think that, right? They think like fixed females, okay, but there's got to be a man there controlling everything. Yeah. And there isn't. It's me. Yeah. So I lost it. They left, and then I walked out, and the guy said to me, he's like, the main guy, the third out of the 3, he says to me, I'm sorry. And I said, look, save it. And I said, don't ever bring people like that on my job site again. Yeah. I said, especially when you're working for me.
Yeah, good for you.
You know? And it was like a kind of like a revelation. I was just like, like I felt so good after that.
Yeah,
and I was just
totally.
Like, and my Dylan, my project manager, was there with me, and he's like, good on you, sis. Like, good job. He always says that. He's like, good job. You know, he was so, I could see he was proud that I stood up for myself. And I think more women need to do that. Like, it's enough is enough. Like, who do you think you are? You're not some special guy that you're here digging fucking concrete. Like, you're no tradesman. You know what I mean? It's like, totally. What? Like, get the hell out of here. So that was my experience yesterday. I'm still fired up about it. But, you know, it's like these guys just, sometimes they think they can say whatever they want.
Oh,
like,
I know. Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating. So, anyway, that's crazy. But, so now you're in Hamilton. So you're working on, what are you working on now? What's in your scope for the next, 2 years?
So, I'm hoping to, I'm putting in an offer on a property out, a commercial, it's mixed use, so commercial residential. Cool. So I'm hoping to pick that up. It's a horribly wonderful building. It's got good bones, beautiful brick building. Cool. And it's like in the hood, right now. It's like, so it's got all of the amazing characteristics that I love, that in, 10 years it's going to be an amazing community.
Yeah.
But right now it's really horrible.
So how do you determine something's going to be used? Like, how did you know 15 years ago about that? How do you know about this one? What's your, like, go-to? Do you have a formula or something? Or what how does that work?
I think I probably do, all in my head.
Yeah. You don't even know it.
Yeah, I don't even know it. Yeah. So typically, I follow the standard rules of like gentrification, and I can see where a city is going to grow. And there's lots of different predictors. Like, so typically I always buy, for the most part, from Chinese sellers. And so it's like they're, in Chinatown or the hood, places that are like really, really affordable.
Okay.
And then so somebody like me will buy a property. I design it. I have a very specific demographic of like hipsters and artists. So I design it for them. And then they make the neighborhood amazing. And then property prices go up, and so it's like those are the stages of gentrification. And it depends a lot on location. So like I was buying, great example, I bought a condo in Chinatown in Toronto, bought it for like next to nothing, sold it, I tripled my value, sold it 10 years later. So
wow.
So yeah, it's, I've done really well, and it's more instinctual, but I'm sure that there is
some way,
more of a formula to it. You just really have to like be in it for the long term. So think about like,
it's not a quick investment.
No. And like I have done that before, like done flips, but but I'm more like, I'm not a instant gratification person.
Okay.
So it's all about the long-term hold. And
well, that's good. You're setting yourself up for a lot of success, and I'm sure you've had a lot already. But we follow you, and we love to watch what you're up to. And
thank you.
We'll make sure that we keep following you and see where your journey heads. And same with us, we're on the same road.
Totally.
I made one one massive error. When I bought my first condo with my brother and sister, I was just turning 19. And we bought our condo for $186,000 at King and Portland.
Oh my God.
Oh no, hold on a second. So it was a rental property for us. We bought it and rented it out. Yeah. And the girl that we had rented to was this little college. Yeah. I say little because she was very young, but this college girl, probably didn't really care much about the place.
Yeah.
And she kept putting her dishes in the dishwasher with toothpicks on them, so she wouldn't like scrape her plate into the garbage. So she put them in the dishwasher, and every week, none of us cared because I was 19. Like, what 19-year-old cares about a property at that age, right? Like, you probably did, but I was like, I'm not gonna go do anything for the property. So my dad would have to drive from Richmond Hill every week to go and scrape the dishwasher of these fucking toothpicks. So finally one day he calls us up and he's like, that's it. Yeah. I've had it. I'm not going down to that property anymore. You guys handle it or we're selling. And then I was like, let's just sell it. This was like only 2 years later. We sold it for quite a bit of money. Right. But I just found out one of those units, and this is a bottom floor terrace with like a lookout or whatever. And I just found out one sold for over $1.4 million.
Oh my God.
And I said to my dad, how about those toothpicks, Dad? You're the one who made us sell. And I always blame him now. I'm like, God damn it. But if we would have held on even another 2, 3, 4 years, we would have made thousands of dollars off, hundreds of thousands off of it.
Right. Oh my God.
But at the time I was happy. I paid off my stupid credit cards and shit.
Yeah, and you know what? You can always use that equity towards something else, right? Yeah. So it's not lost investment.
Well, it certainly feels like it now. So how many projects or how many projects do you take on? I have so many questions for you, and I know we're running out of time, but how many projects do you take on at a time, and how many things do you actually own right now? Like condos do you own or properties?
So I've recently sold a few properties, and normally, like as a real estate investor, you don't sell assets, but I wanted to buy this commercial property. So I did liquidate and a couple of properties so that I could buy this commercial property. But for the most part, like, I mean, I, buy property like at least once every 6 months. So,
wow.
And typically like it will take me a month or 2 months to do a renovation just because
Cool.
we're like
in
going
and out
hard, and then getting it rented out. But yeah, I mean, how many properties do I own? Never enough. But I'm buying commercial now, so
cool.
Hopefully I'll somewhat get out of the residential game.
Yeah.
And strictly just be buying commercial. And when I say commercial, I mean anything with like 5 or more units. That would be considered commercial. So
Wow.
I would still have residential tenants, but it's classified as a commercial property. So.
And it's just you who does all this.
Yeah.
Wow, that is impressive. I want to be you when I grow up. That is so cool. That is just so amazing to hear, and so cool to see such an amazing woman in a business, and so powerful. And
well, I think you really hit the metaphorical nail on the head. Like it's perseverance. Because like if I stopped when somebody gave me side eye, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
No.
Like I absolutely don't give a shit about what anybody else thinks. Mm-hmm. And I have such extreme confidence in myself and in what I'm doing that it's like I can't even hear the naysayers anymore.
Right.
So extreme confidence and perseverance.
So what would you tell our youth today or young women of today that want to get into business, owning their own companies? What would you say to them now?
You know what? I would say like know your stuff. Yeah. Right? So like if you're gonna go into business for yourself, be an expert, because there is always gonna be those assholes out there who are gonna pick you apart because you are female. Yeah. So you have to be the expert, you have to be better than them. Yeah. Yeah. That would be my only piece of advice.
Awesome. So well, really good. Well, thanks again for having for coming here today, and we appreciate you, and we hope to see what you're doing, and like I said, we'll continue to follow you, and hopefully you'll follow us, and hopefully we'll stay in touch, because I'd love to get to know each other and
absolutely
be best friends.
Yes. Yes. But you'll quote my Hamilton project.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so very cool. Well, again, thank you, and we wish you all the best, and we'll continue to follow you on your journey.
Thanks so much.
All right. Well, that concludes our episode. Thank you so much for listening in. So screw on or screw off. We don't care what you do. We'll check you next time on Screws and Stilettos.
Do you believe in magic?